Let's talk about some mental health. Is that okay?
On our mental health podcast? Really? Hello, hello. She's not here, so I will sing a song. Oh, Christina, she is in her room. She probably doesn't have her headphones on.
Hello. Oh my God, Lauren. So, this is so funny. I started recording because I wanted to have like a sample of my background noise so I can clean it up. So I was just like recording, and then I was feeling really anxious, and I was like groaning audibly and thinking how funny it would be if you came in.
I didn't hear any of that, but I did start singing a song.
Oh, you started singing a song? Oh, I can't wait to hear.
Well, it's not going to win any Grammys.
Well, maybe a pickles and vodka equivalent.
Okay.
I guess we did away with the hot and spicy pickle awards.
That's true. Yeah. But we had a tough year, so.
Hello, friends.
Hello, friends.
I have an idea for a tagline, but it's really stupid.
Well, I have no idea, so it's better than mine.
It'll make you laugh.
Okay.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Pickles and Vodka, the mental health podcast where what the fuck is even going on?
That actually should be our tagline all the time.
Right?
Yes.
I thought it was apropos. What's that word?
Something like apropos.
Apropos, thank you.
Oh, by the way, I'm Lauren.
Oh, and I'm Christina. One of us might be a wee bit stoned.
You know, I decided against it, or I maybe just like didn't have the time. I was like, am I supposed to be high all day then?
Listener, if you're listening from the future, it's Lauren and I are recording on yet another holiday. I don't think at some point it didn't make it into the podcast, but we had a whole conversation about how we keep accidentally recording on holidays. Let's see. We recorded around Christmas time.
We recorded on Thanksgiving because neither of us were doing anything or cared.
We recorded on Easter. And now, on the holiest of days, 420.
Yes.
Here we are again.
Celebrating another holiday with you.
There's nowhere else that I would want to be, honestly. Because, yeah, it's been a week.
Yeah.
Before we get into it, thank you, everyone who responded to our episode last week, where we talked about our friend Dawn, who passed away. Well, I just have no words. Have you been keeping up with that at all, Lauren? Like what people have been saying?
So full disclosure, yeah, I've had a few conversations with people a little bit about it, and I've seen a lot of the reactions and, you know, really grateful for all that. But I realized this week when I kept trying to find time to listen that I always listen to podcasts at work or in my car. And I'm like, those are both times where I don't want to be in danger of falling apart. So I haven't actually had time to listen to it.
Fair. Well, and you've been busy too. It's not like you can drop everything to fall apart.
I went to put on our podcast as usual when I have some time at work. And then I was just like, oh, wait, I haven't listened to this yet. And this could be, you know, this could bring up some feelings. I'm not prepared to be there while sitting at my desk.
Yeah, I've listened to it a few times, and every time I have to sit down. Like you, I normally multitask while I listen to podcasts, but it just, I mean, when we were making it, it was kind of a blur. Like one of our mutual friends texted me to say that it came out really good, and I was like, what you don't know is that Lauren and I were sitting there for 40 minutes trying to find words. Like the edited version, it's maybe like 15, 20 minutes of us talking. It was originally 40 minutes and there were so many dead silences.
Just pauses and us just like,
Yeah, that is the magic of editing. But yeah, it's a really hard thing to talk about, and it's fresh. So like we're all dealing with the emotions, and we'll keep dealing with the emotions. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that in this context?
I think what actually I'm the most afraid of is, because when we talked about that, then, I knew her, but I hadn't been as close as a lot of other people. And I think that's what I'm afraid of most in listening to it, and like what my reaction will be is, as you said, this was only a couple months ago. It's a pretty raw wound, you might say.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I was like thinking like, I'm sure it's going to just like bring up in me like people that I were super close to and lost and going through that again. So I was just like, I can't do that, like compound both of them. I can't sit at my desk at work again and listen to that. So yeah, it'll be tough, but I'll do it.
Well, yeah. And there's no right or wrong way to react to it. And even though you have lost a lot of people this way before, it's like each one is different and it never gets any easier. I can imagine, again, like,
yeah, it's
I don't
like
know what I'm talking about.
It's one person in particular, actually, that I'm feeling like it's going to bring up because maybe there's more similarities. And, that's someone who I would say for a good year after his death, like we used to message each other on Facebook Messenger, like almost every night we'd talk. And I just like kept up a one-sided conversation on Facebook Messenger for, like almost a year.
Yeah.
Because that's just, it was who I talked to when I was feeling like all like screwed up. So I just like continued to do that, even knowing they weren't going to talk back. And sometimes that was kind of comforting in a way. And it's all, of course, really sad. So yeah, I was just kind of like, I don't know that I'm prepared to go back there as well as relive this past January.
Yeah. And you need to take your time and do it at your own pace, because if you force it too soon, you might end up shutting down, which we know from experience. Why are we here today, Lauren?
I don't know.
Well, no, I say that it's a rhetorical question. I wrote it down in my book.
Oh, okay. I was just thinking because we just sort of loosely had some ideas and we just didn't have a plan. We're just going to talk.
Well, we don't officially have a plan, but I think sometimes we try to plan this thing too much. We forget that the whole point is just to show up and talk about our feelings. Life is not organized, and life doesn't happen on a schedule. None of us have a plan, and this podcast is a model of that.
Yeah.
Ideally. It's been a while since you and I sat down, Lauren, and just caught up.
Just like shot the shit.
Yeah, and I think the way you put it in your text was we should just do like an extended where you're at segment.
Yeah.
Before we do that, I feel like we should do a little bit of housekeeping, just like a baby.
That's good.
House, like a tiny housekeeping.
Okay, a tiny house.
Yeah, because it's been a while since we did that. So, if you're not following us on social media, well, you're not missing out on much because we don't post that much. But what I mean to say is, what are you doing with your life? Go follow us. We are on Instagram and we do like engaging with people. And as we get into the swing of podcasting more regularly again, we're going to need ideas. Like, what do y'all want to hear about? And, who do you want to be a guest on the show? I've had someone send me like potential guests before, some of which led to actual relationships. And so like, you never know.
No, I had some ideas last night of people that I felt like would be good guests, and they're friends of mine that I don't necessarily like keep up with and talk to. And that's what I was wondering. I was like, would it be weird if I just messaged them out of the blue and like, do you want a guest on my podcast? Because I think you would be good at it.
Oh my God, I've literally done that. A few weeks ago, I started a Substack, which I'll talk about later, but it really got me thinking about revisiting a Substack for the podcast.
Yes, I was just as you were like starting to talk about like our social media kind of lack of presence lately and stuff. That's what I was thinking of that as well. And I did think like that's a great cheat because I really wanted to work on that. And I'm like, well, if Christina's learning all about it, then when I finally get around to doing something with it, then when I get confused, I can just say, what do I do here? How do I best post this?
Well, and the thing I've been learning that we can use with the podcast is that like Substack is a really great way to just get an email list of contacts. So, so I know not everyone who listens to us is active on Instagram. Shit, we're not active on Instagram. So Substack will be a nice place to, keep everyone on the same page, put all our updates in one place. You can post whatever you want on there, really. Mm-hmm. And unlike Patreon, which, confession hour again, we have had a Patreon for like 6 months and we haven't released it because I feel so guilty asking people for money.
I didn't realize we actually had one.
I guess I didn't even tell Lauren, so
yeah,
there it is.
I think you told me you were considering it. That's as far as I knew, and you explained all the reasons you didn't want to. Yeah.
I really feel shitty asking people for money, but the thing is, I don't have a job right now. We do this for free. Some people legit want to give us money, which is super weird.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, we've had people that listen to us actually tell us, you should do something and ask for money.
Yeah, we've had multiple people. So anyway, the point is we are talking about starting up a Substack where you can add your email to a list and get updates from us. And that doesn't cost anything. And then if you want, there will be like monthly or one-time donations available.
Yeah.
God, that feels icky to say.
No, I like that. Put it all, we have no expectations or any ill will if nobody decides to donate anything.
Exactly.
We're happy to have you. Yes.
Yeah. And someone else, I think it was Orion, was saying like, I was saying how scared I was to start getting donations from people because then it would mean that I have to put something out. And he was saying, I think something like, they're paying you because they want to support you. They're not expecting anything. Anything you put out will be a bonus.
Yeah.
And that made me feel a little better about it. I'm sure those people exist hypothetically that want to help us out.
And we're not going to be mad if they don't.
Exactly. Okay. I think that's all the housekeeping for now. I just wanted to touch on that.
Okay.
Before we get emotional.
Yeah.
Where have you been at in the last week?
So I have been, living alone again while my roommate is gone. She went into treatment and she actually was having some insurance issues.
Shocker.
Like, well, yeah, I can talk to you about that. And so they did cut on her immediately. So she is in PHP right now. And she decided to stay in their housing. So she's not living here, but it sounds like, and this is a program that I went through before. It's actually like originally where I met her in 2016. And it sounds like this program is just like struggling to keep themselves alive while not admitting that. So
I think we need to explain briefly, like, the difference between a residential program and a PHP program and like why it's not a good idea to be forced to leave the former and do the latter.
Before it's technically you're ready for it, I guess.
Yeah. So like you're in residential, obviously you live there and you're in treatment 24/7, basically.
Yeah. The idea is that, to stop your behaviors or to protect you from yourself, you need 24-hour supervision.
And you're usually there for anywhere from like a week to a few months, however long you need. It differs wildly from person to person and sadly from insurance plan to insurance plan. Mm-hmm. So, which leads us to what's happening to your roommate. PHP, when you're ready for it, is a really great way to step down like slowly into reality again. Like you go to the hospital and to treatment like during the day. It's like school or a job.
Yeah. And some of them, I've seen some that are like different amounts of time. Some of them start in the morning and maybe go till like afternoon. Some go all the way like through the evening. So,
mine did.
At that point, yeah, I've done both. And at that point, it's kind of like they're saying like, we're still here for you for most of your waking hours. So you're still getting, a good amount of like therapy and things like that. But it's at a point where it's like, you can go home and sleep in your bed if you want,
with your pets.
You're safe enough to do that. Yes.
But most importantly.
Yes.
And it's establishing trust with yourself. It's learning how to, you're still getting help, but you're slowly doing more things on your own. keyword slowly.
Yeah. But so I thought that it was a good decision because also like programs like this, especially because people could be coming in from all out of state, you know, they will usually have their own housing option where you're considered living on your own, but they're providing it. So she is staying in their PHP house. So she is, you know, she's still supported at those times. There's other people there and stuff like that. But apparently they have cut all weekend programming. So
what?
Yeah, most PHP programs I know are still 7 days a week. This has nothing on the weekend.
So when I was in PHP, we had a snowstorm my first week out, and I missed PHP for the first weekend, and it was terrible. I struggled a lot. And so weekends are just especially difficult in the first place. And so you really need to be going every day in the beginning.
Yeah.
So yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
Have you like talked to her recently? Let's bring it back to you.
Yeah. So because of that, and I think where I was going with this is saying, or initially is that, you know, like I am living alone now, but because of her situation and she is nearby and she has nothing to do on the weekend. So she's just like, I'll probably come back sometimes on the weekend. So yeah, I haven't talked to her recently, but she is planning to come back tonight and stay the night here. So she'll be back.
How do you feel about that?
I feel pretty good about that because as much as I wanted to be back to living alone, you know, I did get used to having someone there.
Of course. We talked about it last episode or 2 episodes ago, a little bit.
Yeah. So this is actually, this is a really good compromise, I feel like, for me. It's like, oh, you know, on the weekend, 1 or 2 nights, then I'll have company again. That's nice.
That's a great way of looking at it. And it'll be good for her, too.
Especially because I've been there, so anything, like she's, you know, like want to bitch about her situation, I'll be like, yep, I can empathize.
How have you been doing with that lately? Let's talk about some mental health. Is that okay?
On a mental health podcast? Really?
Sorry, if I have to take a pause to cough, it's because I'm sick and I'm mad about it. We'll talk about it later.
That sounds like me now that I have to wear glasses.
Wait, talk about that.
So I don't like have to, you know, I'm not like blind or anything like that, but I have recognized since I got them over a year ago that I'm just like, yeah, I could see the best if I would actually wear them all the time.
You know why I paused just then for so long? Because I was legit racking my brain trying to remember if you wore glasses or not. It's like that episode of The Office where they can't remember if Stanley has a mustache or not. I was like, fuck, wait, does she not have glasses?
I don't think I had them when you were here, because that was
maybe you wore them in a video or something. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, but so I wear them now, like the times that I absolutely like know that I have to, like, to be safe. Like I wear them driving always.
Okay, good.
And yeah, and I usually wear them at work. But like I don't wear them at all on the weekends, and I notice things, like I said, like clearly I could see better because there'll be things like tiny writing that I know that I used to be able to read, and instead of actually like getting my glasses to read it, then I just like squint really hard and try to read it, and then I get angry at my eyes because I'm like, 2 years ago you could do this. Why did you stop?
How dare you age?
Exactly.
You know what I realized? That's really crazy. So you and I have a 12-year age difference. Yeah. And then my roommate is 10 years older than you, and my mom is 10 years older than my roommate.
Your mom is almost as old as my mom, which surprised me because we have such an age difference.
Well, my parents got started late, but they made up for it.
Yep.
I think of these things throughout the week that I mean to tell you, and then I forget. And so when we're recording, sometimes I'll just like spit them out.
Yeah. Like, do you want to hear about how it was raining in my apartment?
Yes. Oh my God. Wait, didn't you post pictures?
I don't think I posted anything, but I know I sent you the pictures in a video. You sent me the
Late at night, it's all a fever dream. The drugs are hitting. I'm going to sleep. I'm just like, ooh, rainy pictures.
But since we're talking about it, I feel like we should post the video because it's absurd.
Tell us briefly.
Yeah. So I have this huge window because, we've talked about kind of how my apartment is. It was the gymnasium in a school. The ceilings are, God, I don't even know, 18 foot, something like that.
It's huge. The acoustics are kind of a nightmare.
Right. Yes, this is why we struggle in that situation. But yes, there's a huge window in that main room. And I had noticed before, especially in like really strong rainstorms where, it's just like beating against the window, then I noticed like, it does like leak a little bit. It'd be like that little like snake of water that comes in the side, like doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
Oh God, I just got chills. What's the reverse of ASMR?
Sorry.
No, keep going.
At some point, it must have gotten way worse because I am upstairs in my bedroom and it was raining hard, but not super terrible. And suddenly I hear this dripping and I'm just like, God, it sounds like it's raining inside my apartment. It's so loud. And I go downstairs and it is. That window is leaking so much that, it is rain dropping from the window onto the windowsill.
Were the pets freaking out?
Pico doesn't give a shit about any of that stuff. Meatball probably didn't like it because I've also learned, Pico has found out that he can actually scale the cat tree where I put Meatball's food. So he has been eating Meatball's food.
I just pictured Pico just like running up a cat tree and it tickled me. Oh my God, what a shit show. Now
I have to put the cat food on the windowsill and hope that he doesn't figure out how to scramble up there. He hasn't yet that I know of. So Meatball was probably when it was all like raining on him, like, what the fuck? This is where I eat.
So it's raining inside your apartment. That's great. Mm-hmm. Dare I ask how the search is coming for a new place?
Yeah, so because things just weren't working out, I was supposed to see a place last Friday, so that was like the 12th or something like that. And at the last second, then they canceled on me, and because everything is like scheduled through our portal online and all this stuff, when they canceled, they're like, you can go back on and reschedule if you want. And so I'm like, all right. So I go in the portal and it's like, first available viewing is April 21st. I was like, I wanted to be out by the end of April.
Oh my God.
This is not going to work. And my landlords hadn't scheduled any other viewings for this place, so I was less confident that they would find somebody to take over the last couple months if I broke the lease early. So I just messaged them and I was like, you know what? Let's just withdraw that and I will just satisfy the lease, and I'm here through July.
Okay, well that's a little less pressure at least.
Yeah. Like at that point, I knew I wasn't going to be able to get out by April, and I was like, if I have to ask them to extend that through the end of May, I might as well just stay till July. Yeah. At that point, it's so close.
Yeah.
Just don't go through the headache of trying to break a lease early. I'll just do it.
I'm kind of in a similar situation. I can't remember the last time my housing was just like secure. Mm-hmm. Like it's just been up in the air, and I'll make one plan and then that'll fall through. And
well, you just got a roommate, but what was the kind of long-term plan there?
Well, so my lease is through September, and this is my second full year here, and I was hoping to not renew for a third. Couldn't afford to stay here on my own, so I found a roommate till September. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I was planning on leaving and renting a house with a sibling. Okay. That fell through yesterday, kind of out of the blue. And I already told my roommate that, like, I'm definitely leaving in September. So luckily, I haven't told the landlord yet. So, like, I can kind of do what you're doing and withdraw it and be like, okay, mm-hmm. let's cool our engines. Let's just chill here for a little bit. We're fine. We have housing. We're safe. It's stressful. This place has a lot of bad memories for me.
Yeah, makes sense. You were not excited to just kind of hang out there. Yeah.
But I love the neighborhood, and I am starting to form a little baby community here. So I'm fine. It's fine.
Everything is fine.
But let's talk more about your mental health, because You sent me an interesting text. I believe the word relapse was in there.
Yes. Not that I believe that I am, but, more like relapse-y type feelings were coming up. If you want to spin it to a positive, I guess it's good that like that was immediately on my radar. Like, oh, hello.
Well, yeah. And we have been talking about it lately on the podcast because it's been very relevant in our lives. And we're both in different stages, but I think the threat is the same. Like, I think you are very quick to brush it off. Like, it's just a thought. It's not as bad as some people. Like, I'm not spiraling, but the thoughts are there. And you keep texting me every week, like, these thoughts aren't going away. And that concerns me. I don't think we should brush it off. I think we should talk about it.
Yeah. I think like why it really kind of like threw me for a loop yesterday is because I know we had to have talked about this stuff before, how like it's always hard for me to understand as far as the eating disorder, because when I was younger going through it, I never felt like it was a real thing because I didn't feel like I was any good at it. Like I always felt like it was hard work, I was like my brain at that point would be, like I want to lose this much weight and I want to not like eat meals during the day and stuff like that to achieve that, but my biology was still like fighting against that so strong. Like it's really hard for me to, not have lunch this day or something like that. And it always felt, like it was hard work to do it. And so that seemed to me like, yeah, I usually just give in. So this must not be real. I'm not really that good at it.
My brain is still unpacking all that because that's so profound. Just like how fucked up is that we work so hard and are so angry at ourselves for doing what our bodies are literally like supposed to do.
Exactly.
Like that's it just sunk in when you were saying that, like how unnatural that is and how hard that is because it's supposed to be hard because your bodies are supposed to work. Like, yeah. The phrase that popped into my head was, this really is a disorder.
I know. I think about that too when I think about that stuff, because that was probably mostly through like my 20s, and I like to think at this point, like, even though there's a lot of shit that still goes on and a lot of things that I have trouble like convincing myself to change, at least I feel like my brain at least understands like that is not what you're supposed to strive for.
But also when you've been doing it for decades, that is kind of what you naturally gravitate towards, because after wearing down your body and fighting against it, it does lose some of the ability to, resist and to fight back and to regenerate and all that stuff.
Yeah. So last night, I feel like all this week, kind of what's been on my mind then is when I'm planning like what I'm going to have for breakfast or for dinner or a snack or something like that. I feel like it's been strongly on my mind that it's just kind of like, pick something that's going to be small and low calorie and, don't let it get out of control, because I'm not comfortable in my body, and maybe, this way I will lose a little bit of this weight and still continue to feed my body, but, probably not what's ideal. But, it's all been like calculating and all this stuff in my brain, thinking like, what's this and what's that? And yesterday was like, I think what scares me about it is because, like I was saying before, because I am used to it still feeling like work and like hard to do. And yesterday, so I'm just laying around playing on my phone, and at the time where I'm thinking like, okay, so what are we going to do for dinner tonight? And I was just like, I don't want to. I don't want food so much. Nothing sounds good. I really, really, really don't want to have a meal. And that's not like usually where my brain is. Like usually, it's fully accepting like, of course I want to have a dinner, but let's plan what is okay with me. But just
that's how it starts. Oh,
it's
every
like
time
it's foreign to me to have that feeling of just kind of like, I want to do this as much as I want to go up in front of everybody I know and give a public speech about something I know nothing about.
Yeah.
It sounded just like that terrible. And, and then I did begrudgingly, just was like, okay, just get in your car and go pick up some takeout sushi because you like that, even though none of it sounds good and I don't want it so much. But
no, I've done that too. I've gotten takeout because it's literally the only thing that sounds appetizing. And you know what? That's a victory.
Yeah. But yeah, it was kind of freaky to have that feeling.
It's so
and to
insidious.
know at that point that like the easier thing to do then would be like, cool, I've given myself permission. I'm just going to lay back on my bed. I'm going to pet my animals, play on my phone. Thank God I don't have to worry about food.
Well, yeah, it is. At the end of the day, it's one less thing to worry about when your brain is already overloaded with worry. For me, like when I'm restricting, my brain is clear. Like I can think so much more easily, and it's like that the noise of food is gone. And it's a problem because like by not feeding ourselves, we make it worse. It's harder to regulate our thoughts. And it's just a cycle. I'm stuck in it too.
It's interesting that you said you feel that way because for me, it's usually the opposite. I realize like that is one of the things that like keeps me going is I know like when I've been like heavily restricting, what I'm doing is I'm sitting at my desk and I'm trying to work, but really the only thing on my brain is kind of like, okay, so when am I going to allow myself this number of almonds? And that's just like all my brain can go on. And I'm just kind of like, I'm trying to invoice people, but my brain is just thinking about like 9 versus 12 almonds.
Yeah. I think it might be different for me too because I'm bulimic and I'm always thinking about food. And I was talking to my therapist about this the other day. I am incapable of enjoying foods in normal amounts. I don't feel like I'm enjoying it unless I have unlimited amounts of it. And that comes from, scarcity complex, like not growing up with enough food or, whatever.
Yeah.
So if I let myself have a little bit of something, I'll spend all day eating it when I'm at my worst with my bulimia. And so when I'm in a restriction phase, I guess, it is a relief because those thoughts of how am I going to get more of this food are gone.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I think I'm different but similar in a way because I feel the same thing, like the scarcity and the things being withheld from me growing up and stuff like that. So yeah, I also like it's not going to be enjoyable, like you said, unless the limit does not exist. And yeah.
Well, and not that you haven't dealt with binge eating as well. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
But for me, that's what I think is then I'm still just like thinking all the time because I'm just kind of like, okay, I'm going to allow this, but I know that it could, like, if I let myself enjoy myself, it's going to get out of control. So I'm just like sitting there, like stressing the whole time, like, am I going to be able to stop at the right time? And when do I start so that I can stop and go to bed? And
it takes up so much brain power.
Exactly.
Even talking about it on the podcast, like, is boring sometimes. It's just like,
I know.
Neither of us want to talk about this. But there's people living it every day, ourselves included. And so, yeah, I mean, it's important to talk about it. But I'm kind of in a relapse right now. And I don't, just because I'm like sober from alcohol for a month as of a few days ago, I feel, thank you. Thanks, bitch.
Yeah.
I've been focusing so much on that. I have just kind of been ignoring the eating stuff. And it's been bad this week.
And that's fair. Like when you're working, I feel like when you're dealing with multiple things, sometimes that's all you can do is like really work on one thing at a time.
My therapist wants me to start seeing a dietitian, and I don't want to, but I know I need to. Like, so back to your experience, right now you're like having those thoughts. I really don't want to eat dinner right now. Like looking for the things that are maybe lower calorie or safer for you. that's how it started for me back in, I want to say, like the summer of 2023 or even earlier. I was technically in recovery. I mean, even when I relapsed on alcohol, I still wasn't binging and purging. That's a relatively recent thing. But my point is it moves so slowly sometimes, and then it happens all at once. And you're like, how the fuck did I end up here? But that's how it starts. Like I said, I started a Substack where I post some of my vulnerable writings from this time, xtinajumper.substack.com. But part of how I've been writing these pieces is I'll go through my old journals and I'll take excerpts from those journals and elaborate on them or whatever. And I'm really able to see how this relapse has progressed through the last few months. And yeah, it is kind of a shock to think like January 1st, 2024, I still hadn't binged and purged. And now I'm back to like, how many times did I binge and purge this week? You got to tell my therapist. And like, I think about it all the time now. It's so boring and exhausting. And I don't know what if I'm trying to be like a cautionary tale or what, or just like vent, but we're human and like we're susceptible just like everybody. Maybe more susceptible.
And I do feel like that was my big discovery or whatever in the past 10 years or so after dealing with all of this for so long is, and maybe the main reason that makes me want to give it all up is, just when you're in like an eating disorder like that, then it becomes your whole world. So it seems really exciting and things like that. But God, it is boring.
We can't emphasize that enough.
Boring. Yes.
Yeah. Maybe that's why our podcast is still so small, because that's all we do is talk about eating disorders.
Oh. But you know, if our audience isn't quite there yet, then that it's still exciting to them. They think that's life. So we should have an audience.
Oh no, that was a joke. I love our podcast and our audience and everything.
I know. But yeah, that's the same thing as when I like read through like my old stuff, like when I know like times were bad and stuff like that. That's what I'm just kind of like, God, how did I even like live with myself? I was so boring.
Well, and we're able at least to read that and think, oh, that's so boring. It's like reading a journal you wrote when you were 12. And the reason I use that specific example is because less than an hour ago, I was cleaning my desk and I found a journal from when I was 12.
Ooh.
And that was before I broke the thing that I sent you a picture of.
Oh, what was that?
It used to be a candle, and then I emptied it out and I turned it into a storage container for my weed.
It makes sense then why you had it today of all days.
I smoke every day. Full confession. That's a whole other thing we could talk about. That, I mean, it is 420. Maybe we'll talk about it. Well, anyway, I was reading my 12-year-old journal and it was really boring. It was like, today I did this and that. And, but there are some really amazing quotes though. Like, I love AOL. Anyway, but that's kind of how I feel reading old eating disorder journals too. It's like, that was my entire world. I thought it was so interesting. And it's actually kind of boring.
Yeah, all your writing is like, today I did this much exercise and I had this for dinner and I'm not going to have anything else today. Yay. It's like, cool.
Well, and in the same way, I think revisiting our misery over and over again and reprocessing it, it's important. But to a certain extent, like with my writing these days, I am revisiting a lot of really painful times and writing about it. But that is it. Like once I put it out there, like I learn from it. Like it's been a really interesting process, like learning a lot about myself. And I feel like it does bring a sense of closure. Like, okay, I can move on to the next thing now that I've gotten this out there. You know what I'm trying to say? I feel like I'm rambling again.
No, I think I get it.
It is boring, but it's also important. And I think the fact that you're looking back on it and you're saying this is boring is a sign of growth.
I agree.
That's what I'm trying to say.
No, that's I think kind of where I was trying to come around to as well, is like, it's good that we recognize like that's a boring life.
I mean, yeah, that's how I feel when I listen to like any old episode of this podcast. but we won't go there. I do feel very much like what the fuck is going on right now. Things are just, I feel like this whole week I've been doing more. I've been like writing. I've been working on, the support group is going great. If y'all want to join our tiny little online support group, we have it every Saturdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard. It's called Pickles Anonymous, and you can go to join.freeconferencecall.com/Pickles Anonymous. Anyway.
Yeah, I feel like I make it to about like half of them, but I want to say, particularly last week, felt really, really helpful. I was really glad that I went and we talked.
I was so proud of you for talking so much. Like, you were very vulnerable, and it's usually, like, the most people we've ever had is, like, 6 people. It's very tight-knit. It's very chill. It's just, like, yeah, showing up and being vulnerable, and it's a good time. But, yeah, it's another commitment I have. It's another thing I've been thinking about. I've been slowly dipping my toe back into activism again, like local activism. I've been making friends through that. I went to this queer writing group earlier last week. I almost said last year. And I've been doing more things, but as a result, my body is shutting down. Like I said, I got sick and I have this cough that won't go away, and I don't help it by vaping all the time and smoking. And
right.
I'm kind of doubling down on the way I described it to my therapist was my numbing agents. Like, in response to all this external stimuli, I'm like numbing myself harder than ever. Like with food, you know, I've been binging and purging again, not often, but like it's happening. And like the Benadryl is still a thing. I'm trying so hard to shut myself out from a life that is flourishing by all accounts, in spite of my difficulties and in spite of all the unknowns. Like, my life is going better, but it doesn't feel like it. I still feel panicked all the time. I feel like screaming all the time. I don't know. I feel like
I really relate to that.
Tell me how you relate.
I feel like that's how I feel like too. Is
I'm sure the listeners at home are like screaming, "Yes, me too." So yeah, why don't you talk about that?
But yeah, I feel the same way, because that's you know, the things that are going well. Like tomorrow, we're finally going to have another band practice. I auditioned with them. We had 2 practices, and then I get a text message just from the drummer. Like, my heart dropped, because unlike the last band that just kind of felt like, this could work or not, I'm kind of fine with leaving it. I really like this one, and I just was like, oh no, this is the kiss of death. This is, sorry, Lauren, you know, it's not going to work out. We talked about it. But instead, because they're going to have, you know, me and a male lead singer, co-lead singers, and they're like, so just wanted to let you know it's not really working out with this guy, and we're probably going to let him go. I was like, oh, I thought it was going to be me.
Oh my God.
The guy called me, and we just had a conversation about what was going to happen next. And, you know, I said it kind of like joking, but I really was like nervous about that. I was like, oh, you know, I was surprised to hear that, but I was afraid that this was going to be like, no, Lauren, it's not going to work out with you. And he immediately was like, no, everything you've done has been great. We have been really impressed. You are here as long as you will put up with us. So I was like, oh, I feel so good. Yes.
Imagine that, someone appreciating you for your talents.
I know.
It's interesting how like that's the one that you wanted, and so instantly your brain was like, oh, they don't want you. Just shut it down.
Like, oh, we're going to get disappointed, because of course. Yep. Yeah. But so because of that, you know, they did have a person in mind who they'd played with before that they thought could step in and be their male lead singer, but, you know, he needed to learn the music, so we haven't had practice for a couple weeks. So finally, tomorrow, we are meeting again for the first time in 2.5 weeks, which of course means right before we recorded, I finally turned on my keyboard and tried to work out a few things, even though I've had 2.5 weeks to work on it. But at least I did something. That makes me feel...
You did. You've been doing a lot of things. We both do a lot of things that we don't give ourselves credit for. Dare I say too much?
True. I wonder if it's because both of us have talked about how we feel like we need something going on all the time, you know, kind of like to distract us, to focus on. So because we're doing a lot, but it's not filling every single one of our minutes, We feel like I could be doing more.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And rather than like launch myself into a million new projects, I'm trying to just focus really hard on a certain few and see how it works out, which is a great segue to this podcast and what the next few weeks will look like. We're both still busy. We don't know like if we'll be able to record like this every week.
But we're back, baby.
We're back, baby. Yeah. So that's a great segue to wrap up and tell people how they can find us. Like we said earlier, we're working on a Substack. I shared my Substack earlier, but I need subscribers. It'll make me really happy. And I share a lot of really personal stuff on there, even personal for this podcast. So yay. Don't you want more of that?
Yeah, we just mentioned how great it is to realize that people appreciate you. So appreciate Christina.
Appreciate me, damn it. My life depends on it. Oh, and also I do plan on doing like a monthly audio journal type mini podcast thing on there. This is my teaser for that. But yeah, it's xtinajumper.substack.com. That's just a shameless plug for me. And yeah, if you want to get in touch with us, say hi, share how what we talked about resonated with you, or if you have any ideas for stuff you want us to talk about, Lauren, how can they do that?
First of all, I love when people come and have an idea for a topic that just like never occurred to us.
Yes.
So if you want to hear something and you say like, I think you guys need to talk about this, we are going to be ecstatic.
Also, like movies and stuff, if you see something that has to do with stuff we talk about, like we love doing like movie reviews too.
Yeah, I also mentioned to Christina last night that I officially heard the first trailer for Inside Out 2.
Oh my God.
And we, of course, reviewed Inside Out, so that will happen.
Yes. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Also, if you want to be a guest on one of our movie episodes, like we do that too.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I feel like I have to mentally prepare for this.
No,
now.
go for it. I'm just vaping over here.
Okay.
Destroying my lungs.
You can contact us on our social media in a variety of ways.
Why are you so quiet?
Sorry.
Oh my God, why was that so funny? It was like you're a different person.
I told you, that's why I gotta prepare.
Wait, Lauren, how the fuck can people follow us?
Find us on our Instagram at Pickles and Vodka Podcast. You can email us picklesandvodkapodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, where we are Pickles and Vodka, a mental health podcast. Also, you can find us on YouTube at Pickles and Vodka Podcast. And if you like, you can always contact our individual Instagrams at xtinajumper, at Pico Suave, and sometimes at Lauren AFH. Thank you.
Thank you. I was trying so hard not to cough that entire time.
All right.
We love you all, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.